These titles use strong emotional triggers and hints of mystery and drama to entice viewers to click and watch your story. You know, I always thought I was pretty lucky with my mother-in-law, Evelyn Bennett. Evelyn is a true pillar of society in our small town of Mapleton, Indiana. She's the chair of the parent committee at the local school, a church volunteer, and a loving grandmother to my children. Hell, she even bakes cookies for the homeless every Sunday. Don't forget, we have a charity dinner at the church on Saturday, my wife, Emily, reminded me at breakfast. Yes, yes, I remember, I mumbled, buried in the morning newspaper. Is your mom going to be the star of the show again? Emily laughed. Well, who else? You know Mom. She can't sit still if help is needed somewhere. I nodded, remembering how last week Evelyn organized a fundraiser for a children's hospice. This woman seemed to be everywhere. By the way, she asked you to stop by her place after work today, something about her computer. No problem, I replied, finishing my coffee. Tell her I'll be there around 6. The workday flew by, and soon I was parking in front of Evelyn's neat 2-story house. After ringing the doorbell and getting no answer, I used the spare key she had given us just in case. Evelyn, it's Michael. I came to look at your computer. Silence. Strange. She's usually always home at this time. I went upstairs to her office. The door was ajar, and I could hear a muffled voice. Evelyn, I understand. I'll bring the money tonight. As usual, I heard her voice, but it was unusually tense. No, nobody knows. I'm not an idiot, I froze, not knowing whether to announce my presence or wait for her to finish the conversation. Listen, Mike, I need more time. I can't just come up with 50 grand right away. Her voice took on notes of irritation. I don't give a damn about your problems. I'm in hot water too. If Tony finds out that she fell silent. I heard footsteps and barely managed to step back from the door as it swung open. Evelyn stared at me, her face pale. Have you been here long? I tried to maintain a calm demeanor. I just arrived. Sorry for coming in without knocking. The door was open. Evelyn stared at me for several seconds, then her face relaxed, and she smiled her usual warm smile. Oh, Michael, you scared me. Come in, dear. What's wrong with my computer? I entered the office, feeling my heart pounding in my chest. What the hell had I just overheard? And what was I supposed to do with this information? The next few days were a blur. Evelyn's words wouldn't leave my head. 50 grand, Tony Russo, hot water. This didn't sound like the vocabulary of a parent committee chair. Michael, are you listening to me? Emily's voice snapped me out of my thoughts. Huh? Yes, of course, I lied, realizing I had missed half of her monologue about the upcoming charity dinner. What's wrong with you lately? You seem distracted. Emily frowned, looking at me with concern. I'm just tired. Lots of work. But in reality, I couldn't stop thinking about Evelyn. What if all this time her image of the perfect mother-in-law was just a mask? What if something dark and dangerous was hiding behind the facade of respectability? I decided to conduct my own investigation. I started small, listening more carefully to Evelyn's conversations observing her behavior. But she acted as usual, baking cookies for the church fair, babysitting the grandchildren, discussing the latest town gossip with Emily. "Mom, could you watch the kids on Friday evening?" Sarah asked me, and Michael want to go to the movies. "Oh, darling, I'm so sorry, but I already promised to help at the animal shelter," Evelyn replied with sincere regret in her voice. Maybe Saturday, I thought, watching her closely, trying to catch even a hint of a lie. But nothing. Either she was really going to the shelter, or she was a damn good actress. One evening, when Emily was at a friend's house, I decided to take a desperate step. Waiting for Evelyn to leave her volunteering, I sneaked into her house. I felt like the worst scoundrel rummaging through my mother-in-law's things, but the thirst for truth was stronger. In her office, I found several strange notes with numbers and names, but nothing concrete. Just as I was about to leave, I accidentally knocked over a stack of papers on the desk. Among the fallen documents, something familiar caught my eye. It was a photograph. In it, Evelyn stood arm in arm with a man. They were smiling, but there was something predatory about that smile. Behind them, a casino building was visible. I turned the photo over. On the back was written, "Vegas 2019, big score with Tony Russo." Tony Russo, the same name from the phone conversation. Suddenly, I heard the sound of the front door opening. Damn, Evelyn had returned earlier than expected. In a panic, I stuffed the photo in my pocket and rushed to the back door. At home, lying awake next to the peacefully snoring Emily, I stared at the ceiling and thought, "What have you gotten yourself into, Evelyn? And what am I supposed to do with all this?" Now, the following weeks turned into a real detective thriller for me. I started tracking Evelyn, recording her conversations, noting oddities in her behavior. Hell, I even installed a location tracking app on her phone under the pretext of caring for her safety. "Michael, don't you find that Mom has been a bit tense lately?" Emily asked me one evening over dinner. I nearly choked on a piece of chicken. "Really?" I tried to maintain composure. "I haven't noticed." "No, look." "She seems the same," Emily pondered, searching for words as if something was troubling her. "If you only knew." I thought, but I do. "Maybe she's just tired. You know she's always busy," Emily nodded, but I could see she wasn't entirely convinced. Meanwhile, my investigation was gaining momentum. I found out that Evelyn regularly traveled to a neighboring town, supposedly to participate in charity events. But when I checked, there were no events held on the specified days. One day, I decided to follow her. I told Emily I was going on a business trip, but instead rented a car and trailed Evelyn. She led me to a small club on the outskirts of town. Nothing special at first glance, just an ordinary bar for locals. But when Evelyn went inside, she was greeted by a burly man who looked very much like Tony Russo from the photograph. I sat in the car for several hours, watching the entrance. When Evelyn finally came out, she was carrying a small sports bag that she didn't have before. Thoughts were swarming in my head: gambling, drugs, money laundering. What had she gotten herself into? Returning home, I found Emily in tears. "Michael, thank God you're back," she said, throwing herself on my neck. "Mom." Something's happened to Mom. My heart sank. Had she been exposed? Arrested? What happened? I asked, feeling cold sweat run down my back. She's in the hospital, Emily sobbed. They said it's something with her heart. Oh, Michael, I'm so scared for her. I hugged my wife, trying to calm her down, but only one thought was spinning in my head. What if this is because of me? What if she found out about my surveillance and couldn't handle the stress? Standing by Evelyn's hospital bed, looking at her pale face and listening to the steady beep of the heart monitor, I realized I was at a crossroads. Tell Emily everything and destroy her image of her mother. Stay silent and become an unwitting accomplice, or try to help Evelyn get out of this situation, risking being drawn into her dark affairs. The choice I had to make could change our entire family's life forever. A week later, Evelyn was discharged from the hospital. The doctor said it was a mild heart condition caused by stress. Emily insisted that her mother move in with us during her recovery. Mom, you need to rest, Emily said, arranging medications on the bedside table. No volunteering, just peace and rest, Evelyn smiled weakly. Yes, dear, of course you're right, Emily replied. But I saw how restlessly Evelyn's eyes darted and how she constantly checked her phone. Something was clearly troubling her. One evening, when Emily was putting the kids to bed, I went into Evelyn's room under the pretext of bringing her tea. How are you feeling, Evelyn? I asked, placing the cup on the table. She looked at me with a long, studying gaze. Michael, we need to talk. I felt my heart beat faster. About what? You know something, don't you? She looked me straight in the eyes. You suspect something. I swallowed, feeling a chill run down my spine. Evelyn, no need to make excuses. She raised her hand, stopping me. I've seen how you've been watching me, how you've been going through my things. I felt shame color my face. I didn't mean to. I know, she sighed. You were just worried. But Michael, you have no idea what you've gotten yourself into. Evelyn lowered her eyes, fidgeting with the edge of the blanket. I wasn't always like this, you know. This perfect grandmother, volunteer, pillar of society, she smirked once. I was a completely different person. What do you mean? I asked, although I already guessed the answer. Gambling, Evelyn confessed. It started when I was young. At first, just for fun, then it became something more. I was good, damn good. She looked at me, and I saw in her eyes a reflection of that woman from the photograph, confident, even a bit dangerous. But then Emily came along, and I decided to quit, to start a new life. Evelyn shook her head. No, the debts didn't go away. And this Tony Russo, he's got me on the hook. I owe him a large sum, and the only way to pay it off is to gamble again. Evelyn nodded. But now everything's gotten even more complicated. Tony is demanding more and more. I don't know how to get out of this. I sat stunned by her confession. Part of me wanted to condemn Evelyn, to yell at her for putting her family at risk, but another part understood her. Why are you telling me this? I finally asked. Evelyn looked at me with desperation in her eyes. Because I need help, Michael. And you're the only one who knows the truth. I can't drag Emily into this. It would break her heart. I took a deep breath, realizing I was on the verge of a decision that could change everything. What do you want me to do? The following days were a blur. Evelyn's words echoed in my head, giving me no peace day or night. Michael, you've been so distracted lately, Emily noticed at breakfast. Is everything all right? I tried to smile. Yes, just a lot of work. Don't worry. But inside, a storm was raging. I was facing a choice that could change the life of our entire family. Option 1, tell Emily everything. Open her eyes to her mother's double life, the debts, and gambling. This would undoubtedly destroy her perfect image of Evelyn and might even ruin our relationship. But doesn't Emily deserve to know the truth? Option 2, stay silent and become an unwitting accomplice. Continue to live as if nothing had happened, knowing that behind the facade of a perfect family life lies a dark secret. But could I live with this burden on my conscience? Option 3, try to help Evelyn get out of this situation. But that would mean immersing myself in a world I know nothing about. A world of gambling debts and dangerous people like Tony Russo. Risk everything I have for a woman who has been lying to all of us for years. I looked at Emily and our children playing in the living room, and at Evelyn, who was smiling as she read them a fairy tale. This idyllic picture was so fragile, so deceptive. Dad, come play with us, my daughter called. I nodded, getting up from the table. As I approached them, I caught Evelyn's gaze. In her eyes, I read a silent question, a plea for help. Time was running out. I knew I would soon have to make a choice that would determine not only my future but the future of everyone I love. Each option had its consequences, its risks, and none of them guaranteed a happy ending. Sitting on the floor with the children, putting together a puzzle, I thought about how easily this picture of family happiness could be shattered. One wrong step, one careless word, and everything would fall apart, like this puzzle. Evelyn caught my gaze and nodded almost imperceptibly. She knew what I was thinking about, knew that a decision had to be made soon. In the evening, putting the children to bed, I realized I couldn't postpone it any longer. Tomorrow, I must decide what to do. Lying awake next to the peacefully sleeping Emily, I went over all the options in my head. Each of them seemed both right and wrong at the same time. Morning came too quickly. I got up, feeling the weight of the impending decision. "Where are you going so early?" Emily asked sleepily. "Need to do something for work," I lied, kissing her on the cheek. Stepping out of the house, I took a deep breath of the cool morning air. Ahead lay a fork in the road with 3 paths, and I had to choose one of them. I took a step forward, ready to make a decision that would change everything.